Golden Frieza bids you adieu as this arc comes to a close. But don't be blue, Goku. Just enjoy Dragon Ball Dissection. So last time we discussed what everybody was wearing because clearly nothing more important is going on. Oh, right. Goku has been impaled by sorbet. But I guess that's not all that important either, given that Krillin simply gives Goku a senzu and that's the end of it. It's less of a dramatic moment of tension than it is an excuse for Vegeta to get to tag in. And that's a shame because the movie version actually does this a bit better. Originally, Vegeta doesn't jump in to save the day. Freeza calls Vegeta down to finish off Goku himself. He even offers Vegeta a choice assignment in his army. And while I don't think it's too concerning that Vegeta will go for this, I like that Vegeta takes the opportunity to not betray people for once, and to reiterate the obvious reasons why he wouldn't be willing to defect to Frieza of all people. Chances are Dragon Ball Super didn't want to have 2 Vegeta betrayal fakeouts, but if it has to be one, this is the one you keep. Actually, if anything about this is tense, it's the fandom's reaction to this. Namely that Sorbet can take out Goku with a little laser ring. So let's talk about that. Full disclosure up front, this has never bothered me. Of all the problems I have with this story, be it the movie or television versions, this is nowhere near my list. In fact, I kinda like it, at least in concept. The idea of elements like sneak attacks being effective create far more interesting fighting scenarios than simply assuming Goku is rated at 10, Sorbet's ring is rated at 1, it is ineffective. Bodies are more complicated than that. I can achieve the coordination, balance, and sustained exertion of riding a bicycle for several miles, but if I stretch the wrong way when I get out of bed, I can't move my neck all day. I like the idea that a transformation doesn't make someone's body wanked out invincible, because that doesn't leave much room for upsets. Sure, characters can, and often do, react quickly enough to render such attacks ineffective, and if it was always that simple, victories would feel cheap. But I don't dispute on its face the idea that a confident and attentive Goku could be injured by something far weaker than him. I mean, if we're talking animated Dragon Ball, Krillin beans Super Saiyan Goku in the head with a rock. That's the whole point of the scene, that Krillin assumes that Goku's status makes him invincible, when all Goku is thinking about is relaxing in a field. So yeah, this doesn't bother me aside from it, again, not really having any consequences other than arbitrarily taking Goku out of the fight, so the plot can continue. However, the Dragon Ball Super version at least tries to compromise here. In the movie, Goku takes this hit while transformed. The television version has Goku revert to his regular form just before this happens. And I'm fine with that too. If that's what it takes for there to be peace in our time, so be it. Vegeta steps in and deflects a blast that inadvertently kills Sorbet. Oh well, I've made my peace that this is not a story about him. He's simply a tool to get to the fan service. Vegeta can do that blue transformation too. Frieza is no match for him, and then, just like in the movie, Frieza blows up the Earth to keep from losing, the ultimate rehash of the original Frieza fight. I appreciate that this version adds in images of some of the loved ones who were lost because of this. The movie doesn't even bother. And another important change actually came earlier but is only becoming relevant now. See, in the movie, when Goku and Vegeta are training, Whis stops the plot to explain that he has the power to roll back time. It's basically the movie planting a big neon sign in the ground that this is how the plot is going to be resolved. In this version, he only alludes to it. It doesn't come out of nowhere, it still feels like the idea is set up without being completely telegraphed. And for what it's worth, the one thing I like about this concept in general is that it at least can't be done more than once for the same event. Whis can only roll time back for 3 minutes, and then can't use it again for a while. It's a one-shot deal for any mistake. It's the Omega 13 from Galaxy Quest, but with less Sigourney Weaver, and that makes it worse. At any rate, if I could turn back time, if I could find a way to steal this kill from Vegeta, then I would. And that's what happens. Everybody praises Goku, and Vegeta is totally confused, which is hilarious. And no, I don't think Vegeta deserves this kill. I'm not at all upset that Goku saves the day. This is not a story about Vegeta's relationship to Freeza, especially since they cut that scene of Freeza tempting Vegeta. Freeza only cares about Goku. The story would have had to do a little more legwork to justify Vegeta having the pivotal role. This is looking ahead a little bit, but it would make more sense to let Vegeta get revenge or whatever in the Broly movie than in this story. Gohan heads home, overjoyed that his family is alive and rededicated to keeping them safe. I'm sure that'll stick. But as thrilled as he is, it feels like this scene is missing something. Kiss her, you fool! What are you afraid of, Dragon Ball? Let couples kiss for once! Later, everyone returns to Capsule Corporation to celebrate. This is almost certainly why I use ends with a barbecue at Capsule Corporation as my shorthand that Dragon Ball Super story arcs feel episodic without much about the status quo ever changing. It opening on Piccolo, now up to speed on what he missed, going, "Oh, so that's Golden Frieza, huh?" Just doesn't sound like anything of importance has happened. It feels like a sitcom plot, a mildly inconvenient afternoon. And yes, that statement applies to Piccolo's death, too. Well, at least there's a cute moment where Trunks can't understand everyone's shock when he asserts if he had fought Golden Frieza, he would have cut him in half. That's pretty funny. Anyway, Goku and Vegeta muse on how they would have had an easier time. I don't know, it seemed pretty easy to me. If they had worked together, but they agree that learning from their mistakes is for losers. The end. The Resurrection F story arc is working off of the same flat, infuriating premise as the movie, so it's no surprise that it's also a disappointment. In fact, I'd argue it takes fewer liberties with the movie than the Battle of Gods adaptation. It certainly adds bookend material, but regarding the main story, its changes are made with more precision. And a lot of the time, such as how and when Whis reveals his time travel powers, those changes are for the better. But then again, it also introduces changes such as Tagoma becoming Ginyu that make the story far, far worse, or more accurately, give us hope for a better story that never comes. Outside of Frieza's obsessive and self-defeating need for revenge, the main character thrust of this story is, or is supposed to be, Goku and Vegeta in training and the lessons that Whis tries to impart, which are then put to the test during the fight with Frieza. Whew, I wrote a very long sentence. Goku's flaw is supposed to be that he doesn't take things seriously enough and drops his guard. Vegeta's is supposed to be that he overthinks things and doesn't react as quickly as he should. And we see examples of both of those flaws hurting them. Goku getting ring popped is his consequence, and Vegeta allowing Frieza to blow up the Earth is his. I can see how those particular moments apply, but they also hit my ear a little wrong. While it's good and necessary that the series is coming up with challenges for its leads to overcome, I've always thought this demonstrated how a series has to really reach for those flaws when it's gone on for so long. Goku's is a little less difficult to believe. I mean, I already brought up that filler rock to the head moment. And certainly we've seen examples of Goku getting injured by an enemy after he's lowered his guard, including against Frieza. Maybe I'm splitting hairs here though, but those moments within a fight tend to be less a result of this laid-back goofball persona than a result of his goodness and mercy blowing up in his face. Particularly both Frieza examples. It's hard not to see this as a result of Super making the character sillier. When I hear Whis' diagnosis, I immediately think of that moment when Goku appears to take no stance, but is completely focused and in control. Still though, I can buy it, and like I said earlier, I'd rather the characters have vulnerabilities and flaws than not, so I'll take it. Vegeta's supposed flaw, though, is a lot harder for me to swallow. Vegeta overthinks things? Tell me, what was he overthinking when he decided to gamble a year's worth of training on siding with the enemy? What was he overthinking when he decided to throw away his family and friends on siding with the enemy? Now, I would agree that compared to Goku, Vegeta plans more. A great example of that is how he escapes from Frieza's ship. But he's anything but overthinking. He thinks on his feet. He wastes no time coming to decisions and carrying them out. It can be his greatest asset, and it also leads to some seriously inept lapses in judgment. But I've never seen Vegeta be the kind of person whose inability to make a decision dooms everybody. This to me reads like Toriyama or whoever came up with this is solidifying Goku and Vegeta as a duo. And as a duo, as foils, they need to be positioned in opposition. Because of that, Vegeta is uptight and fastidious, and Goku is sloppy and silly. They're Felix and Oscar in 2015's revival of Neil Simon's The Odd Couple. But, maybe that's what this show needs. Characters are rewritten all the time to better serve their stories, and in-universe, maybe you can say this is the influence they've had on each other now that they're best buddies who hang out all the time. I can certainly say I tend to fall into certain roles based on who I'm spending time with. And at least this is based on something that Vegeta has done, even if I think it's a huge stretch to get there. And believe me, much later in Super, a character who's supposed to be smart makes an evaluation of Vegeta's disposition that is so much more ludicrous than this. Individually, those are their character struggles, but their intertwined problem is that they can't work together, something they both agree they shouldn't have to do. This is perfectly in character for Vegeta. It does seem a bit odd that Goku is in full agreement, given how many times he has asked for Vegeta's cooperation. But I'll hand it to the story that the two of them bonding over how much they don't want to be together is a funny moment. And in terms of Toriyama's rather anarchic sense of humor, Goku and Vegeta refusing to learn a lesson seems within his writing wheelhouse. But if that's the message the story is supposed to be presenting, that the heroes win through the power of lack of teamwork, it ends up feeling muddled. Vegeta depends on Goku to teleport him to the fight. They both protect their loved ones from Freeza targeting them. Even Goku stealing Vegeta's kill depends on Vegeta ceding ground and getting out of the way for him. And while it's much more dysfunctional and underhanded on the villain side, Freeza and his forces employ forms of teamwork too. Freeza coordinates with Sorbet to get the upper hand against Goku, something they clearly planned ahead of time. Tagoma is steadfastly loyal to Freeza, even though Freeza doesn't deserve it. In a way, you could even say that Ginyu and Tagoma work together. If you're a particularly twisted person. Is the message of this story supposed to be that teamwork is bad and only bad people do it? I'd almost believe that. Speaking of Ginyu and Tagoma, I think Super could have saved that whole thing by tying it into the story they were telling with Tagoma. And I hate that I didn't think about it until after I finished that video. So, Tagoma has drunk Frieza's Kool-Aid. Frieza considers new, crazy Tagoma to be the best. They're completely aligned in their values. Tagoma totally buys that might makes right. Then, Ginyu steals his body. Rather than disappearing immediately, Frogoma appeals to Frieza. However, Frieza, seeing that Ginyu Tagoma is stronger, does not care. Just as Shisami was disposable when Tagoma impaled him to get to Gohan, Tagoma has been rendered disposable by Ginyu ejecting him to get to Gohan. The same fascistic system that raised Tagoma up chews him up and spits him out when it becomes convenient. Might makes right, after all. There could be such a cool idea in there if they actually let it happen. But no. Tagoma immediately disappears upon becoming a frog, and who cares? As long as the bar is in hell, let's talk about hell. And death. A lot of you have mentioned these aspects of the story and how they work or don't work with previous Dragon Ball lore. So first off, Resurrection F establishes the concept of an Earth's hell, which I've already talked about, so I'm not going to get into it again, other than to say that it doesn't make any sense to me. What I won't complain about is that whatever hell we do see doesn't match what earlier Dragon Ball television shows it portrayed. This is the first time Toriyama's Dragon Ball is showing it, so it can be whatever it wants, even if that's not bloody ponds and ripped ogres. And it appears to be a personalized hell, stringing Frieza up in a cocoon and tormenting him with the cute and the cuddly. It's a fun idea. However, there is a joke in the Buu arc where Enma tells Goku that he put Dabra in heaven because he thought the king of the demon realm would enjoy hell too much. Is this not basically the same topsy-turvy joke that a twisted soul wouldn't like nice things? Yeah, basically. And if that's the case, why doesn't Enma just put Frieza in heaven too? Well, because that's needlessly complicated. The movie and the show open with the camera dropping below the earth and traveling through nightmarish scenery. We know we're in hell. We know Frieza's in hell. It's simple and elegant visual communication. Is it really worth it to show the camera waft up to heaven so that Freeza later has to explain why he had been in heaven instead of hell in order for people who aren't big old nerds like us to understand this arcane bit of lore? No, it's not. Enma can make personalized hells, I guess, and I'm fine with that. If I really need a diegetic explanation, maybe the Dabra situation is what inspired him to do that. And if I really need a non-diegetic explanation, Toriyama probably forgot about that joke. The other aspect here is Freeza himself. In Hell, he appears how he existed right before he died, as Mecha Freeza. After he dies again and returns to Hell, he likewise appears how he existed prior to death, as his regular self. That makes sense to me. But when Shenlong resurrects F, Freeza falls out of the sky as little chunks. Literally how Trunks had left his body. Well, not literally, as Trunks then blows those fragments up. But whatever, close enough. I can get behind this too. A character's body being intact, being necessary for proper revival, is brought up several times in early Dragon Ball. When Kuririn becomes the first major character to die, Toriyama writes it so that his friends put him in a refrigeration capsule meant to preserve his corpse. Oolong even specifically imagines how much Kuririn's body will have decomposed if they have to wait a year to resurrect him. Later in that same arc, Goku tells everyone not to burn the bodies of the people who died, as he has figured out a way to resurrect them. Later, when Chaozu dies by blowing himself up, it's specified that God is able to give him a new body in the afterlife, which he then presumably continues to use after he comes back to life. So yeah, the state of a body is often treated as important. But on the other hand, while characters often treat that as a potential problem, it's never actually been one before. Ten Shinhan dies while missing part of his arm, but as soon as he gets a body in the afterlife, that missing limb is never a problem. When Kuririn dies by explosion, Porunga restores the body as a free service. And as I just said, God is able to give Chaozu a new body. Even going back before the fear of bodily destruction is raised, Bora dies by impalement, but he doesn't return to life with a gaping mortal wound. So while the state of the body is raised in theory, it's never a concern in practice. There has been no example of someone coming back to life like Freeza does here. But at the same time, we have examples that demonstrate that's because of specific intervention. Porunga calls restoring the body a service, and we've never really tested someone coming back to life who's been dead for as long as Freeza has been. So I can easily believe that even though Shenlong offers up needless exposition about the mechanics of wish granting to Sorbet, he might be smart enough to not make it easy on them when they want to resurrect an evil warlord. Sure, why not? Not that it makes any difference to the story. Honestly, I'm more annoyed at the Frieza chunks falling out of the sky because someone coming back to life where their body has been a major story element in the past. This reminds me of Yamcha falling out of the sky in the animated wrap-up to the Frieza arc. That's just not supposed to be how it works. But I can't rag on this communication simplicity if I gave Frieza being in hell a pass, can I? Maybe Sorbet just happens to literally be standing directly under the spot where Trunks did the old slice and dice. Why not, whatever. Finally, I've been trying to address this ever since I covered the Resurrection F movie. Then I tried to put it into the series version of Battle of Gods. I just never had room. I have to address it now or I never will. A lot of you have been asking me since last year why I'm using the titles that I do. So let's talk. The modern Dragon Ball movies move away from the traditional pattern of jump around the block fight, hate warrior explode the villain of 43 minutes world, in favor of compact titles that more easily convey what the movie is actually about. That change also coincided with the American dubbing company treating Dragon Ball much more faithfully, directly translating things rather than just making stuff up. Despite what a lot of my detractors and maybe even some of my fans think, I don't try to go against the grain. I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm not trying to be controversial. When I review this movie and refer to it as The Galaxy at the Brink, the Super Incredible Guy, instead of BoJack Unbound, I'm not trying to stick it to dub fans. I'm not even making a statement about which title I think is better. I'm referring to it that way simply because the former is an actual translation of the movie's title, Ginga Giri Giri Buchi Giri no Sugoi Yatsu, and the latter isn't. BoJack Unbound is not the name of the movie I'm reviewing there. I don't even think I've ever seen that version of the movie. I don't review the dub. I typically don't watch the dub. That's simply not the Dragon Ball I'm a fan of. But, it's been fun watching people over the years twist themselves into knots to take me enjoying a cartoon differently from them as a personal attack. But in this era, with these new movie titles, that divide has been largely bridged. Unfortunately, it has left some of you confused, as if I am breaking consistency with my own logic. I had several people ask me why I referred to 2013's movie as Battle of Gods instead of the Japanese title Kami to Kami. I want to clear all that up. First of all, Battle of Gods is not a dub invention. It is, in English, part of the Japanese logo for the movie. Now, obviously, I have made it a point in the past to say that just because Japanese people write something in English doesn't necessarily mean it's the best or even an accurate way to do so. The Japanese title Kami to Kami literally translates to God and God. So yeah, the word battle is not in there. This is not a literal find and replace translation. But if you dig a little deeper into the context, what does God and God actually mean? Are the two gods going on a picnic? Are they starting a law firm? No, they are being positioned facing each other down to fight. God and God is referring to a battle between them. Battle of Gods is not a literal translation, but it is effectively translating the meaning of Kami to Kami in this context. Episode titles in Dragon Ball Super push that context even further by using the phrase Kami to Kami to refer to episodes about the fight. Given that Battle of Gods is a somewhat loose but still accurate meaning, and that it is literally part of the movie's logo, it seems like a fair thing to use as an English title translation. Fukatsu no F is a bit different. There is no embedded translation in the title this time around. Fukatsu no F literally translates to Revival of F, which I do see people use. Heck, I use ROF as the abbreviation of this movie just because it flows so well with BOG as an abbreviation for Battle of Gods. Resurrection F is the title Funimation uses for their dub and in their translated version of the logo. So yes, I do use the dub's title for this movie. I don't know, is that supposed to be a gotcha? Resurrection F is catchy, rolls off the tongue, and is a ridiculously accurate translation. Either Revival of F or Resurrection F seems perfectly fine to me. They're practically the same wording. They certainly mean the same thing. I just don't see any need to split hairs over this one. Frankly, it's a breath of fresh air to look at a Funimation title and go, yeah, this works. So here we are. We have covered two versions of this story, far fewer than Battle of Gods, and now it is time for me to decide which one is the better one. Everyone complains about this story arc, and I can't blame them. It takes a story I already didn't particularly care for, one that prioritizes fan service and nostalgia over pushing the Dragon Ball story forward, and throws in even more weird stuff with worse animation to boot. And I'm sure it didn't help that its existence continued to deny people the new stories they wanted to see. I can understand all of that. However, if I had to choose one version of Resurrection F, it would be the Dragon Ball Super version. Yes, you heard right. I think this is better than the movie. Don't forget that I opened this arc raving about all the fun slice-of-life additions that better helped me connect to the characters. Yes, throwing in Ginyu is something I'll never feel good about, but it's not as if Tagama's role in the movie is any better. So this isn't a case of the TV version taking an element from the movie and ruining it. They're both bad in different ways, and I do think the series makes some headway in smoothing over some of the weaker elements of the movie, such as how the time travel is introduced, and sure, even Goku's current state of transformation when he's ring-popped. I also appreciate the greater emphasis on character. Even if I don't agree with the execution of some of those things, it still keeps this version from being less boring than the movie. I guess the big downside is that it's a story I'm not fond of, but it's now considerably longer. But, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have my decision. So that's the Resurrection F story. I'm glad to be putting it behind me, but it was a nice, breezy arc to cover. I mean, only 6 parts, that's pretty easy. From here on, we'll be moving out of the movie period and into the first of the super original stories. It's the God of Destruction Champa arc. We'll be covering the manga version first since it came out first. In fact, it came out almost immediately after this arc started. As I was organizing my dates, I did wonder for a second if I was going to need to do that arc before this one. Oh, that would have confused all of you, wouldn't it have? It would have been fun. Regardless, I'm excited to finally get back to Dragon Ball Dissection's manga roots. I only got one manga video out of Battle of Gods after all. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Dragon Ball Super so far. I hope you like my kazoo. Please like this video and subscribe. Be sure to check out some of my other fun videos. The world of Mr. Fusion is not just Dragon Ball, you know. Help out on Patreon for early access to videos and other fun goodies. I'll see you next time.